Washington, Lou Dobbs' Moneyline begins right now.
The Bush administration today urged the United Nations to keep the pressure on Saddam Hussein. The White House says the Iraqi leader cannot be trusted. We begin our coverage with Suzanne Malveaux at the White House.
Well, Lou, the White House says that UN weapons inspectors have been allowed in before, only to be prevented from doing their jobs.
Iraq's move seemed to take some of the momentum out of the steam building against the international case towards Saddam Hussein.
The United States says Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction and that he's prepared to use them. Tonight we'll look at the risk of terrorists acquiring nuclear weapons.
The Conference Board takes a stand on executive compensation and, in particular, highly lucrative stock options.
In the markets, profit fears drove the Dow Industrials to a 6-week low. The Nasdaq fell as well.
Also today, oil prices dropped after Iraq agreed to allow UN weapons inspectors back into the country. That gesture appeared to reduce the threat in the minds of investors of a military strike against Iraq.
This is Lou Dobbs' Moneyline for Tuesday, September 17th. Here now, Lou Dobbs.
Good evening. President Bush today said the United States must not be fooled by Iraq's decision to permit weapons inspectors to return to the country. The president again called for tough action against Saddam Hussein. Mr. Bush said it is time for the United Nations to prove it's more than an ineffective debating society. Suzanne Malveaux has the report from the White House. Suzanne.
The Bush administration is openly dismissing Saddam Hussein's offer to allow UN weapons inspectors back into Iraq. At an education event in Tennessee, the president blasted the Iraqi leader.
This is a man who has delayed, denied, deceived.
The Bush administration says if and when inspectors return, the terms will be set by the United States and the United Nations.
We cannot just take a 1 1/4 page letter signed by the foreign minister as the end of this matter. We have seen this game before.
The White House says Iraqi weapons inspections and disarmament are not enough. It wants a new UN resolution with teeth that demands Iraq comply with other commitments, such as addressing human rights violations, reparations to Kuwait, and an accounting of Gulf War prisoners. But the administration's big concern now is that Saddam's offer will undermine a push to get the UN Security Council to commit to the enforcement of the current UN Security Council's resolutions or the proposal of new ones. Security Council members may decide simply to put inspectors back in and wait to see what happens before they authorize military action, a two-step process preferred by Russia and France, which does not address Mr. Bush's goal of regime change.
No matter what Iraq does, regime change would mean Saddam Hussein being removed from power. And that's a very different objective from the one most of the international community, with the exception of the British, are prepared to support.
But now some good news for the administration. It is now getting bipartisan support from lawmakers. Tomorrow, the top 4 congressional leaders will be having a breakfast meeting with Mr. Bush. They say they hope to have a draft of the congressional resolution supporting the president on Iraq in hand. Lou?
Suzanne, thank you very much. Suzanne Malveaux from the White House. UN weapons inspectors say they are more than ready to return to Iraq. They say the only thing they're waiting for is the go-ahead from the UN Security Council. Richard Roth joins me now from the United Nations with the story. Richard?
Lou, like an estranged series of partners here, the UN and Iraq may be doing business again. A couple of hours ago, a delegation from Iraq met for the first time here in UN headquarters with the chief weapons inspector for the UN, Hans Blix, and they began the process of getting those weapons inspectors to return to Iraq. Now, this has been going on for 4 years now. They've been kept out of Baghdad. A representative of Iraq gave a briefing to the press, and it seems the next waltz is in Vienna.
We agreed to meet in Vienna in 10 days to finalize the practical arrangements. Also in this meeting, we reiterate and expressed the readiness of Iraq to, for the speedy and smooth resumption of UNMOVIC and IAEA activities.
While Blix and the Iraqis may talk in Vienna, the Security Council wrestles with a new resolution regarding those inspectors. The U.S. and the United Kingdom want a tough resolution, as we heard Suzanne Malveaux say. However, Russia thinks there's no new resolution needed. There's enough on the books. The U.S. wants to have a warning in there if Iraq blocks the weapons inspectors again. And these inspectors have a lot of work to do once they even get on the ground. They've got to figure out about those minders and people who watch them when they go on inspections, to set up communication links in the country, how to get in and out of Iraq by air and landing crafts, and setting up various offices of which many times they feel they've been spied in. Lou.
Richard Roth from the United Nations, thank you. Weapons experts say Iraq could have nuclear weapons within months if it can gain access to nuclear materials. But Iraq is not the only nation or group trying to acquire nuclear devices. Experts are concerned that nuclear technology and material may find their way to terrorists. Kitty Pilgrim reports.
The threat of nuclear material being smuggled across a border and sold on the black market is real. According to the Monterey Center for Non-Proliferation Studies, more than 99% of highly enriched uranium or plutonium needed to make a nuclear bomb is in Russia. Smaller stocks are in Kazakhstan, Belarus, Ukraine, and Uzbekistan. Non-proliferation experts say many states, including Libya, Iraq, and Iran, have been trying for decades to buy black market material. But so far, no one has succeeded in getting enough to fabricate a bomb.
The fact there's a willing market worries me a lot, and in particular in the newly independent states, that is, the former members of the East Bloc. You have a lot of material. You have a very poor accounting system. You have people who need money. You don't have a sense of civic responsibility in those countries for the most part. And so that's an accident waiting to happen.
According to the Monterey Center, in the early to mid-1990s, enough nuclear material to make a bomb was stolen in the former Russian states 14 times. In 5 of those cases, the material was exported before it was recovered. 7 times, the material was recovered before it could be moved across a border. And once, the material was stolen and is still missing.
There are other materials that could be used for radioactive contamination. And of this, there's quite a bit of material that's unaccounted for, such as cesium or strontium or some other elements. These are often used in industry. They're used for in radiotherapy, in hospitals, and we know that some of this has been missing, even in the United States.
A part of the solution is keeping focused on finding and destroying nuclear material with the cooperation of Russia and the other states. Progress has been slow, and experts say it is a race against time to beat the odds that none of this material will make it to the black market. Lou?
Kitty, thank you. A weak manufacturing report today and more earnings warnings sent stocks sharply lower on Wall Street. The Dow fell 173 points. The Nasdaq dropped 16. The S&P 500 lost 17.5 points on the day. Oil prices down as well. The price of oil tumbled following Iraq's decision to readmit weapons inspectors without conditions. Light sweet crude oil fell 59 cents, settling at $29.08 a barrel. We will have more on the markets here later. A high-profile commission selected by the Conference Board today released a long-awaited and hard-hitting report on executive compensation and corporate governance. The commission targeted the abuse of stock options in particular, but it was not unanimous in its recommendations. Peter Viles reports.
Will corporate America ever come to its senses on executive compensation? Well, here's a start. A blue ribbon commission of the Conference Board brought together to lay down the law, or at least some recommendations, on out-of-control CEO pay. Those recommendations: CEO pay should be tied to goals other than short-term gains in stock price. Executives required to hold stock at least as long as rank-and-file employees are required to, and required to give advance notice if they plan to sell stock. And lastly, stock options should be treated as an expense.
This is the first time that a group made up of this kind of individual came out for expensing of stock options and curbs on the excessive compensation that executives have been receiving. This will be a remarkably influential group.
Not influential enough, however, to convince panel member Andy Grove to come to New York and endorse the expensing of options.
Instead of chasing this red herring, in my opinion, we should put our efforts to solving the real problem, which is reinstituting a constitutional democracy in our corporations in place of the fiefdoms many have become.
Warren Buffett is not on the panel, but did appear via satellite to endorse its report and to lay the blame for rising CEO pay at the feet of corporate directors.
There's been a tendency not to look for Dobermans to put on the comp committee, but to look for Cocker Spaniels. So the only thing I will urge is that From now on, the Cocker Spaniels start barking, and don't listen to the animal trainers.
No indication corporate America will rush to embrace this report. The Business Roundtable put out a polite statement calling it a, quote, valuable contribution, neglecting to mention that the Roundtable disagrees with it. It does not favor the central portion of this report, which is the expensing of stock options. Look.
And I thought it was interesting, Pete. The Business Roundtable, which is fighting expensing of options, just like the Chamber of Commerce, didn't even call it the Blue Ribbon Commission by the Conference Board on Public Trust, which is its name. They refer to it as the Blue Ribbon Commission on Corporate Governance.
Yeah, this is not even faint praise. This is another category. It's the kind of stuff that we see in corporate press releases all the time.
Yeah, but coming from an organization that purports to be leading corporate America, it's frankly not only disappointing, it's disgusting.
Yeah, well, we will hear from this Blue Ribbon Commission again. They have two reports coming out, corporate governance and auditing and accounting.
And more importantly, tonight we're going to hear from Pete Peterson, the co-chair of the commission.
Much
right here. Thanks, Pete. Well, executive compensation is the topic of our poll tonight. The question is, how many times the average employee's salary should a CEO make? We would suggest to you perhaps 200, perhaps 100 times, 50 times, 10. Cast your vote. We'll have the results for you a little later in the broadcast, and we'll also have the correct multiple, that is, how many more times the average employee's salary is the average CEO compensation in this country. And coming up next, federal agents investigating the Al-Qaeda terrorist cell in Buffalo, New York, are searching for two new suspects. We'll have details. Congress plans to release intelligence documents about terrorist threats to this country before the September 11th attacks. Former Attorney General Janet Reno has announced her decision on continuing her fight in the Florida governor's race. We'll have that story, and several thousand people have returned to their homes after a toxic spill in Tennessee. We'll have details of that story and a great deal more when we continue. We will return in a minute and a half.
High Profile is brought to you by Charles Schwab. There's never been a better time for Charles Schwab.
Got a hot tip from my broker today.
Yeah, what is it?
Tacoma coffee.
I got that same tip from my broker yesterday.
I got that same hot tip from my broker last week.
Me too.
Me too.
Me too.
Me too.
There's never been a better time for Charles Schwab. At Schwab, we don't give hot stock tips. Our expert advice is based on research grounded in facts, not hype. And as always, designed for individual investors. To learn more, call 1-800-4-SCHWAB.
At Choice Hotels, we know there's nothing wrong with any family that a few days of traveling together can't fix. That's why we have over 2,500 Choice locations across the country. Because the farther you get from home, the closer you get to the people who live there.
So when are we going to talk about the honeys and the bees?
The what?
Enter the get-together sweepstakes at choicehotels.com, and you could win a trip for 10 to any Choice Hotel location in the continental U.S. That's the power of being there.
Smart move, Dave. Consolidated with Dell PowerEdge servers. Highly available, highly scalable. Intel Xeon processors. Cuts costs across the board. So you're not going to miss those old servers, right?
Oh, Tony. What did you do with the old servers?
Nothing.
That's our drinking fountain, isn't it?
You mean Hydra?
Find out how you can cut costs across your enterprise. Easy as Dell. Call or go online today.
Tired of playing the mortgage rate game? You know, when you hear one of those ads that promise you the moon and you call up only to find out that the points are too high and there are hidden fees attached? Well, at ditech.com, there are no games. Right now, we're offering a second mortgage with a no closing cost option. You can be pre-qualified over the telephone or online. Use the money to pay off credit cards or for home improvements, whatever you want. Do it now before the rates go up. ditech.com. Call 1-800-71-FIXED.
More details have emerged about two men who are wanted for questioning about their alleged terrorist activities in Buffalo, New York. Investigators say both men may now be in Yemen. One of them is thought to be a recruiter for the Al-Qaeda terrorist network. 6 men have already been charged with providing material support to a foreign terrorist organization, namely the Al-Qaeda. All 8 suspects are U.S. citizens. Classified intelligence information on terrorist threats to this country before September 11th is about to be made public. That information will be disclosed by the joint House-Senate panel investigating intelligence failures before September 11th. National Security Correspondent David Enzer has the story for us. David?
Well, Lou, the extraordinary congressional probe will reveal Wednesday declassified versions of some of the previously secret intelligence reports. A special staff has sifted through over 400,000 documents looking for clues the CIA and other intelligence agencies might have missed. Until now, the only direct clues publicly known are 2 electronic intercepts by the National Security Agency, recorded but not translated the day before the attacks and first reported on CNN. The match begins tomorrow, said one person in Afghanistan to another in Saudi Arabia. Tomorrow is 0 hour, said another. A congressional source close to the investigation says that reading the classified data collected by U.S. intelligence is sobering because so much of it indicates the depth of the hatred of this country on the part of many extremists overseas. The congressional source says there's no evidence thus far that anyone in U.S. intelligence had specific information about the 9/11 attacks, but the evidence does suggest the government knew a lot more about the seriousness of the threat from Osama bin Laden and al-Qaeda than it told the American people. Now, some senior Bush administration officials are balking at testifying in public before the Joint Committee. They don't, in fact, think there should be any open hearings while the war on terrorism continues. But the congressional source says that cooperation on declassifying secrets has been pretty good overall. So, Lou, tomorrow we may have some interesting intelligence revelations.
David Enzer, thank you very much, reporting from Washington. In other news tonight, Janet Reno has conceded victory to her Democratic rival, Bill McBride. The former U.S. Attorney General issued her formal concession in the Florida gubernatorial primary. Reno lost by fewer than 5,000 votes in an election marred by a number of voting problems. Candy Crowley joins us now from Florida with more on the story. Candy.
Lou, Reno's week-long delayed concession brings some clarity now to the race for Florida's governor. It will be incumbent Republican Governor Jeb Bush versus political neophyte Bill McBride, a man who managed to pound down a 35-point Reno lead earlier in the summer and squeak into victory. Reno says this, of course, is the end of her political career, but not the end of her public efforts. She will, first of all, she says, start on trying to figure out what happened last Tuesday, particularly in 2 Democratic counties where votes casting and vote counting were difficult. It is already clear, however, that Reno knows who she blames.
There is no process more important to the people of the state of Florida than voting and ensuring that the voting process works. I think the governor of Florida should understand that the buck stops with him.
As for Jeb Bush, he held a news conference today to welcome his new opponent to the fray. The Bush campaign has said all along that there are 67 counties in Florida, 65 of whom managed to vote and count their votes very well. Only 2, run by Democrats, managed to mess it up. So Jeb Bush and his campaign blames the Democratic officials in those 2 counties. As for McBride, it is also very clear that Bush tends to make his beginner status an issue.
And I challenge my opponent, who hasn't had a record of public service, to lay out specifically what he will do. For the last year, he and his Democratic primary opponents have basically had one organizing principle, that I'm a bad guy and that we're on the wrong track, without offering any alternative, without any specifics. Vague promises isn't going to cut it in the general election.
Bill McBride, having his campaign delayed for a week because of the vote counting now, is anxious to get off the mark. There'll be a unity event Thursday with Janet Reno. The McBride people say what they intend to do is make an issue one of Jeb Bush's leadership, using the election as sort of a metaphor for other things like Bush's performance in child welfare and in education. Then, two McBride officials say they like to contrast his story, the son of a TV repairman who went on scholarship to college, who quit his law career or his law studies in order to go to Vietnam. They like that story matched up against what they believe is the blue bloods of the Bush clan. Lou?
Candy, it shapes up to be, at the very least, an interesting contest. But let's go to those 2 counties. 65, as you reported, did a perfect job in terms of their polling. Those 2 counties, with all of their problems, Whose responsibility is it? Is it the state's responsibility, or is it those two counties' responsibility, each of theirs?
Well, again, you heard both sides. I mean, the Democrats say, look, the buck stops here. Jeb Bush knew that there were problems here. He absolutely had a duty to make sure it went well in every county. So the problem the Jeb Bush people see is, look, they spent $35 million to update the computer equipment, to get rid of those chads and the punch cards, and they handed it over to election supervisors in those particular counties, one an independent, one a Democrat, and they think that's where the buck stops.
Okay. Candy Crowley, thank you very much.
Does that clear it up?
It is so clear that we're going to continue to examine it, Candy, as we must. Thank you very much. A terrific report. Coming up, a bureaucratic battle broke out today after hundreds of Tennessee residents were allowed to return home after a toxic chemical spill. About 3,000 people were evacuated after a train derailed Sunday, spilling sulfuric acid near Knoxville, Tennessee. County officials allowed the remaining evacuees to return to their homes this morning. The Environmental Protection Agency says it was not told the site had been declared safe. However, local emergency officials insist that site is 100% safe for the residents who have returned. Coming up next, unpaid loans, lavish parties, secret bonuses, a $6,000 shower curtain to boot. We'll have a full report for you on just how freely the money flowed at Tyco International. And if you ever even thought of investing in this company, this should probably chill you considerably. I'll also be joined by Harvey Pitt, chairman of the SEC. He'll be here to tell us what the SEC is doing to control excessive executive compensation, to restore confidence in corporate America and the markets. And a behind-the-scenes battle at Disney is shaping up, and it could reshape Disney's future. We'll have that story, a great deal more, still ahead. Stay with us.
Connie Chung Tonight is brought to you by Bell South, listening, answering, and by Union Pacific, building America.
How do you invest to help secure your future? You start with your dreams. And Edward Jones.
My life, my world, it all begins with a dream.
Edward Jones.
Prince Harry turns 18, but can he ever shed his wild child image? Plus other royal news on Larry King Live. CNN Tonight, 9 Eastern.
Attention! If you own a building with Stimson Forest X hardboard siding installed after January 1st, 1985, your rights may be affected by a class action lawsuit alleging that this siding is defective and was deceptively marketed. This consumer protection case is set for trial in August 2003. For more information on this case or to learn how to exclude yourself, call 1-877-577-8878 or visit www.stimsonclaims.com.
Most people don't understand just how big my dad's heart really is. I laugh sometimes because when you get to know him, you realize what a great guy. For me, he's been a real strength and a real light in my life. And now he's taking time to run for the state senate. From what I can see, the legislature needs more people who have his kind of business experience to help create jobs and make better decisions. I'll miss him when he gets elected, but he's worth sharing. My name is Jenny Tiernan. My dad's name is Bob Tiernan.
This is CNN.
Tonight, new information that free money flowed very freely at Tyco International. Former Chairman Dennis Kozlowski, certainly not the only one involved. Dozens of senior Tyco executives received hundreds of millions of dollars in loans from that company, loans that were never repaid. Alan Dodds-Frank has the story.
Tyco's filing with the Securities and Exchange Commission catalogs hundreds of millions of dollars in corporate greed, particularly by former CEO Dennis Kozlowski. Among the tidbits, the company picked up nearly half the $2.1 million tab at this resort in Sardinia for Kozlowski's wife's 40th birthday party.
Normally entertainment is to reward employees for extraordinary effort or to establish good relationships with important clients. Here we have none of that.
The company says 51 employees received nearly $56 million in real estate relocation loans that were forgiven and nearly $40 million more to pay taxes.
They seem to blur the line between their own personal funds and the funds of the shareholders and be willing to draw from either account as if they were one and the same.
In the year 2000, Kozlowski spent $7 million of company money on an apartment in this Park Avenue building, which he then signed over to his ex-wife. A year later, Tyco paid $16.8 million for an apartment in this Fifth Avenue building, $3 million more to renovate it, and another $11 million to furnish it. Among the furnishings, expensive paintings on which Kozlowski is now accused of evading taxes. The SEC filing said the furnishings included a $6,000 shower curtain, a $15,000 dog umbrella stand, a $6,300 sewing basket, a traveling toilette box worth $17,100, and a $2,200 gilded metal wastebasket. The company said Kozlowski had misled the other employees about the lavish benefits and made them believe they were authorized and legitimate. Lou?
He deceived them, huh? They were so gullible. I wonder, it's remarkable. It's sort of a test of their ability as executives not to be able to discern when they're being conned like that.
Yeah, when money's raining down.
I have to say, this is amazing. As I looked at the party plan, all of this is part, by the way, of the SEC filing, to look at the description of the accessories in that party. It's mind-numbing to think that anyone would have this kind of arrogance.
It was one of the biggest toga parties on record, that's for sure. And
when Alan Dodd-Frank says toga parties, that is precisely what he's describing. At least they had great taste, if nothing else, selecting Sardinia for a toga party, but that is about where, no, that's precisely where the good taste ended. Alan, thank you very much. Alan Dodd-Frank. Well, as we reported, the Conference Board's Commission on Public Trust made a series of recommendations on reforming corporate America. Today, the Commission's proposals include the establishment of outside compensation committees, far more disclosure, far more responsible governance. Pete Peterson, who is the chairman of the Blackstone Group, he is the co-chairman of the Conference Board's Blue Ribbon Commission, and he joins us now. Pete, good to have you here.
Thank you, sir.
First, congratulations and compliments on a very important first step in restoring trust in corporate America. Which of these items, I know which is the most controversial, that is the expensing of stock options, which do you think is the most important?
I think the basic theme is what's important. For too long, people have been making egregious amounts of money, either totally or largely unrelated to their performance, maybe the stock market performance, but most of that had nothing to do with them, or in cases where the companies were failing or about to fail. And I've got a triad of what I think is important. Number one, performance, performance, performance. Corporate performance, not just stock performance. Number two, long-term, long-term. Number three, long-term ownership. Now, if you tie those together, they're the heart of what we're talking about here.
Expensing stock options. Andy Grove came out, a respected business leader in technology, to again fight the issue of stock options, expensing them. And as we know, the technology industry has the greatest impact at risk here. That is 70%, according to the Merrill Lynch study. 70% of their earnings would be their earnings would be reduced this year by 70% if they expense stock options. Are you going to roll the technology industry on this issue?
Roll them? We're just going to have everybody speak the truth. Nobody's being prevented from issuing stock options. But the fact that those options are not expensed have had an amazing effect that I had not realized. The only options that are not expensed are fixed price options that have the least to do with performance. If you have cash long-term incentives tied to return on equity, those get expensed. If you have restricted grants that are based on whether your earnings go up or not, those are expensed. So we've driven the compensation away from performance orientation.
The Business Roundtable comes up with the most tepid release I could imagine. They even called your commission the Commission on Corporate Governance rather on Public Trust, as if they were trying to deny to someone what your name was and what your mission was. What's your reaction to that kind of reaction from an important business group?
Well, you and I have been around long enough till we know about big business organizations and how it works. I've worked on the budget problems. I've worked on other problems. Typically what happens is they're basically consensus organization. They're not leaders, typically. And what has to happen? Jeff Immelt, a variety of other guys from GE.
We should point out, GE has stepped up and said they're going to expense office.
That's at their expense. And what typically happens, Lou, is 6 or 8 of the top guys who respect decide they're going to show some leadership, and then the rest fall in.
But we're well into this mess, Pete.
Oh, yes.
Why in the world? You have stood up. A number of companies have stood up and said they're going to expense stock options. You and the members of your commission. Why in the world is the Business Roundtable, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, they have to understand the need for real leadership here. Or as you point out, and your commission points out, there's going to be legislation.
Yeah. Let's talk about what could happen here. If these congressmen come back, given the malaise and the public's attitudes, the attitude of fear because they've lost their retirement savings, the injustice because these guys are making millions of dollars while the company goes wrong, and the anger that goes with it, this congressional legislation on compensation could go out of control. So I would argue it is in the interest of these business guys to get ahead of the curve, because in baseball, if you strike 3 times, you're out, And that's why I think it's so urgent to take voluntary action. I don't like legislation dealing with compensation. You remember they did the $1 million cap on deductibility?
1993.
It had all kinds of unintended effects, including a huge increase in fixed price options and a lot of unintended effects. So I think it's a bad idea to wait.
But as you point out, absent leadership, which you and the commission today took, and which again I compliment you, that is precisely what has to happen.
But we're also getting the investors organized. This group is unique.
Right.
We had Jack Bogle of Vanguard. We had all kinds of guys, and we're going to get the investor community organized here.
Well, everybody is wishing you all the very best of luck in the enterprise. Pete, thank you. Pete Peterson.
My pleasure.
Coming up next here, SEC Chairman Harvey Pitt, who's doing a lot as well to restore confidence in these markets in corporate America. He'll be here to give us his view on what he thinks of the Conference Board's Blue Ribbon Commission on public trust proposals to reform. He'll be my guest. Coming up next, Disney stock traded near an 8-year low today. Shareholders are deeply unhappy, and they deeply desire action. The star of the company's next battle has a very familiar name. We'll have that story for you. And The Sopranos are turning a dramatic success into a ratings success and giving the broadcasters plenty to think about. That story, a great deal more, still ahead. Stay with us.
Anthony, I ever tell you about the time I had a Harley? Oh, cool. 74.
I specialize in pain.
Again?
An office job can be torture. All that clicking, typing, and reaching can lead to serious injuries.
Again?
I'm Dr. Michelle Robertson, ergonomic research expert for Liberty Mutual Insurance. By studying the problems, we help design ergonomic work environments to keep your employees working comfortably.
Liberty Mutual. It's more than insurance. It's insurance in action.
Isn't science fun?
Could I get that report from you, Margaret? And also, I will need you to come in again and work this weekend. Oh. So, what are you going to be giving Timmy for his birthday?
Something nice.
Good.
Financial freedom. It has its advantages. Jefferson Pilot Financial. Investments, insurance.
Are you in on it? Go to cheaptickets.com for tons of unpublished airfares you won't find anywhere else. Or call now for our lowest prices on airfares, hotels, rental cars, and last-minute trips. Want to save even more? Check out our last-minute trip specials now and save up to 60%. Cheap Tickets, the best-kept secret in travel.
The Securities and Exchange Commission has demanded harsh corporate governance reform since Enron's collapse. One issue on its agenda, whether there needs to be better disclosure of executive compensation. Harvey Pitt, the chairman of the SEC, joins me now from our studios in Washington, D.C. Mr. Chairman, good to have you here.
Good to be here, Lou.
You have heard Pete Peterson, the co-chair of the Commission on Public Trust for the Conference Board, their reforms. What's your reaction to those reforms?
Well, my reaction is this is a long overdue and very positive effort. I think that the committee has been made up of outstanding leaders, and I think this is an area in which business has to show the American investing public that it really cares about what happens to them.
And in expensing stock options, how strongly do you feel about it? How much support can your agency give this commission and its efforts, led by Pete Peterson and John Snow and others, with the support of Warren Buffett, to make corporate America sit up and take notice of this?
Well, I think that the issue is coming to a head. The International Accounting Standards Board is looking at this. The FASB here in this country has said they are about to look at what the IASB does and move to it. But the most important thing, I think, is one of the comments that Pete Peterson made, and that is people should only get paid for performance. They shouldn't be paid when they don't produce, and therefore the most critical task ahead of us is to make sure that options are always approved by the shareholders, that they're fully disclosed to the shareholders so they know exactly what's going on, and they should be dependent on long-term performance, not short-term price fluctuations.
Word came that the SEC looking into the retirement package of Jack Welch and GE. How important is the disclosure by corporate America of retirement packages with their CEOs in particular, other corporate executives as well?
Well, I think it's a very important subject. Now, obviously, I can't comment on any individual cases, but I think from a generic perspective, investors have the right to know how their corporate funds are being used. If millions and millions of dollars are being paid out to corporate officers, and those amounts are material, the investors have the right to know where their money is going. That's why disclosure of corporate compensation is a very critical issue, and it's also one that relates to investors' confidence in the management of the companies in which they invest.
And Mr. Chairman, in terms of the requirements for CEOs to sign and CFOs to sign their financial statements, how effective, and it's now been over a month since the original deadline, I believe that was August 14th, is that correct?
Yes, August 14th was the
initial date.
Initial date for our order. About 700 of the 942 companies managed to file. I think it's been a very successful effort. We flushed out a couple of problem areas in a few corporations, but by and large, corporate officers, executives were able to stand up and put their money and their name where they ought to be, and that is on the line, saying you can rely on what we're telling you.
And Chairman Pitt, we appreciate you being here, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you.
SEC Chairman Harvey Pitt. It is now time for our nightly look at our Enron Corporate America criminal scoreboard. No new criminal charges to report, so the score remains 21 for all of corporate America. Still only one executive at Enron charged. The only update, of course, as you see there, the number of days since Enron filed for bankruptcy, 289 now. Shares of Walt Disney have fallen to an almost 8-year low. That decline has angered Disney shareholders, of course, and it has intensified a battle for the company's future and its soul. Steve Young has our story.
It's not just institutional shareholders that are outraged over the Disney company's performance. Within the Mouse House itself, there's a fight going on over the company's soul and its theme park and movie and TV network strategies. Between 18-year entrenched CEO Michael Eisner and founder Walt Disney's nephew. An animator and carbon copy of his uncle, Roy E. Disney, was brought back to head animation in the mid-1980s and restore the company's bloodline. As the largest individual shareholder, Roy Disney, now the company's vice chairman, cannot be pleased.
I think that Roy Disney would do what he felt was in the best interests of the company Disney and the family Disney. I don't think that he would be a defender of Michael Eisner if the board felt that they wanted to make a change.
If Michael Eisner is ousted or steps aside at some point at Disney, you could be sure that Roy Disney will not become the new CEO. He is not a man who works that hard, and he's not a man who's schooled as an executive.
In a rare move, disgruntled institutional investors that say they hold around 15% of Disney shares huddled at a New York money management firm and by conference call. The Disney company told Moneyline, "We believe we have a good sense of how our shareholders feel about the company, and this feedback has been and will continue to be transmitted accurately to our board. We welcome input from all shareholders." Those disgruntled institutions say they'll send their detailed criticisms to Disney before going public. Steve Young, CNN Financial News, New York.
An earnings warning today from McDonald's that contributed to what turned out to be a triple-digit decline in the Dow. The market's at the lowest level in 6 weeks. $210 billion of market cap today erased. Christine Roms is here now following the market for us.
McDonald's was a problem during the session. That was down 10% here today, and that undermined a little bit of a rally, a 1% rally in the Dow early on in the session.
It was just last week we were hearing a lot of positive about McDonald's.
Well, now it's at a seven-year low.
Amazing.
People are unhappy about its new value menu, and now some concern about softness in sales in the U.S. and abroad. J.P. Morgan, after the bell, coming out and warning weak trading environment, also some loans to cable and telecom firms, so some problem loans there are going to be a problem for the third quarter. It's not going to make its numbers, and that stock, along with a lot of other brokers, is moving lower after hours. So we'll watch those tomorrow, see if they're going to be weakness.
Suggesting some considerable weakness, at least in that sector, for tomorrow. The number of stocks right now under $1. It's astonishing.
And some household names on there. Lucent hit $1 today and went below it for the first time ever. Nortel has been on that list for some time. Ericsson is another one that's been a problem. Take a look at that. i2 Technologies, Kmart we know about. Look at those. Those are names that not too long ago were household names in a lot of different people's portfolios. Some of them still widely held, Lucent and Nortel, for example. So it's sort of a sign, Lou, of where we've come, and sort of our own list of Wall Street dollar store, I guess.
And we should point out that because they're $1 or under, doesn't make them a bargain.
Right.
Christine, thank you very much. There is still time to vote in our poll tonight. The question, how many times the average employee's salary should a CEO make? 200, 100, 500, 10. Cast your vote at cnn.com/Moneyline. We'll have the results for you coming up in just a few minutes. Coming right up, the legal system is turned upside down in this country. We'll tell you about a product that hasn't been made in a generation, but it's still generating a fortune for attorneys, at least. Author, attorney Philip Howard, my guest, next. We'll also tell you how Wall Street firms are trying to dress up their employees and their image. And the mob muscles into the television record books thanks to those Sopranos. That story, a great deal more, still ahead.
Yes.
What do you say to investors who are a little frightened of the current market?
Should I be thinking about bonds?
Can I go less risky and still make money?
Charles Schwab introduces 2 new choices for personalized investment advice. Schwab Private Client is designed for the individual investor who wants to manage their portfolio with expert guidance along the way. And for those seeking full-time portfolio management and financial planning from an independent financial advisor, there is Schwab Advisor Network. For objective, fee-based advice that's not driven by commissions, call 1-888-8-SCHWAB.
Frequent persistent heartburn 2 or more days a week despite treatment and diet change may be acid reflux disease.
You never know when to expect it.
The burn can stop you in your tracks.
You worry about the risk of long-term problems.
I got help. Learn to handle the disease and the risks in ways that make sense for me.
Call this number now for information and a free kit from Prevacid, a handbook on managing acid reflux disease and its risks, a risk alert profiler, a guide to making the most of your next doctor visit, and a 7-day free trial certificate to use if your doctor decides Prevacid is right for you. Prevacid fights acid reflux disease 3 ways. It beats the burn, helps heal the damage, and best of all, staying on Prevacid if prescribed can stop the damage from coming back. Prevacid has a low occurrence of side effects such as diarrhea, abdominal pain, and nausea. So if you want the power to manage the risks, heal the damage, and stay healed, call now for your free kit.
Tomorrow on Lou Dobbs Moneyline, a special report on America's efforts to end terror worldwide. Nearly 1 year and billions of dollars later, a discussion with General David Grange and author Rohan Gunaratna tomorrow on Lou Dobbs Moneyline. The men of Enron expose a little more than their assets for Playgirl. Connie gets the inside story. CNN Tonight, 8 Eastern.
Ray Reese Volkswagen of Portland. Portland's largest volume Volkswagen dealer. Zero down delivers any Volkswagen in stock. Every 2002 Jetta in stock. Portland's largest selection. Every 2002 new Beetle in stock. Portland's lowest prices. Every 2002 Passat in stock. There can only be one leader. Ray Reese Volkswagen of Portland. 122nd and Burnside. Drivers wanted.
When Jim Sapanzik coached Little League in our community, he taught more than winning. He taught character and how to be a leader. As chairman of the Lake Oswego School Board, Jim proved just how important education is to him, which is why he fought so hard for more funding for schools, just like he wants to do in the state legislature. As parents of 5, Jim and Marla care about the quality of life we leave for our kids and grandkids. Jim Sapanzik, someone we know, someone we trust for state representative.
Mom, we've got new video of your grandbaby. Can I email it to you? Email it to you? Email it to you?
Mom? I'll have to pass, dear. Seen one baby, you've seen them all, right?
Fed up with dial-up? Get lightning fast speeds with AT&T broadband internet. No dial-up, no hassles, problem solved. AT&T broadband.
Hey kids ages 7 to 12, get into the swing of things at the Golf Channel's Drive, Chip, and Putt Junior Golf Skills Competition. It's free, and even if you've never played golf, we'll help you get your swing going. Winners may have a chance to compete in the National Championship. Register now at thegolfchannel.com or at the following locations. Space is limited, so sign up now. The Golf Channel's Drive, Chip, and Putt.
This is CNN. This is CNN.
Now for our weekly look at how the law can sometimes act against the common good and common sense. Yesterday, the Supreme Court said 8,000 people can sue 260 companies in a single asbestos trial in West Virginia. The vast majority of those plaintiffs were exposed to asbestos many years ago, but were not ill and have not become ill. Most of the companies, in fact, in this lawsuit did not make asbestos. They only used it in their products. Joining me now is the author and attorney, Philip Howard, the author of The Collapse of the Common Good. Were you surprised that this case was permitted to go ahead?
Well, I mean, the Supreme Court only takes very few cases, but in a sense, yes, because what's happened is the courts have become this venue for the super scam of all time. You can't possibly have a courtroom with 8,000 plaintiffs trying to link non-existent fears of injury, in their case, to 260 companies. It's not litigation.
Now, let's be clear. You're not saying that people who actually have been injured by asbestos should not be in court to recover damages for their illness.
People who are injured should recover. One of the problems with the current system is that all the money is being spent out on people who are not injured. And so there's actually a fight within the plaintiff's lawyers' ranks because there's not going to be enough money left. I mean, 20 more companies went bankrupt in the last year and a half.
And more will be going bankrupt, absolutely, certainly, as a result of this.
The original estimate was that there might be 200,000 plaintiffs, because remember, asbestos stopped being used 30 years ago.
What, 1972, right?
Yeah, 1972. Now, estimates say that there may be as many several million claimants because the plaintiffs' lawyers are advertising, driving around industrial areas with X-ray trucks and signing people up if anything's wrong with their lungs.
Why not? But this profession of yours is the one that's responsible, not mine in this case.
Well, the profession is responsible, but the real villains here, and the spotlight hasn't turned on them, are the courts, the judges, and Congress.
Well, who?
I mean, the judges.
You've got more attorneys in Congress, and judges are attorneys. I think I'm starting to get the hang of this thing.
Yeah, exactly. You should go to law school. They make a lot of money, but it's unbelievable. This scam will continue. It will continue. It'll get bigger until the courts stop it or Congress stops it.
Well, you have just raised hopes in every home in America, Phil. You've left it up to Congress and the courts.
Well, a million, exactly. Well, the real hope is, why not sue Last year in West Virginia, and the Supreme Court has agreed to hear this case, 6 people got $1 million each for the emotional distress of being exposed to products that had asbestos in them.
Is there perhaps a claim here for people who have just get emotionally distressed listening to this absurdity perpetrated by the legal profession, our court system, and the inaction of our Congress?
Well, there should be a claim by the pension funds, because who pays? The people paying are the workers who own pensions in America, because all these companies are paying the money out to them.
Well, there's no economic incentive here. The legal profession is making out like bandits.
Right.
One will not go to the
Right.
merits.
They're buying jet airplanes.
And the fact of the matter is, Congress has no incentive because...
Guess what? Well, one party's in the pocket of the trial lawyers.
And the other doesn't seem to have the wherewithal to get it done.
Well, we got to go after the judges.
You know, we're going to take that one up next week.
Right.
Bill Howard, thank you very much.
Thanks, Lou.
Now the results of our poll tonight. How many times the average employee's salary should a CEO make? 5% of you said 200. 5% actually said 100. 31% said 50 times the average employee's earnings. 59% thought 10 times was enough. Well, now, let's leave that up there just for a second, if we may, just to look at that again. Now, here is what the average CEO took home last year as a multiple of the average employee of his or her corporation. Not 200 times, not 100 times, not 50 times, not 10 times, 400 times that of the average employee last year. Even that is a sharp drop from the previous year. In 2000, the multiple was 531 to 1. The pay gap in this country is astronomical compared to countries around the world. The average CEO in Britain earned 25 times what the typical employee in that company earned. Japan has the smallest pay gap. There, the ratio is 10 to 1. And we were talking about lawyers and greed. Well, many things have changed in Wall Street since the telecom and technology bubble burst. Many bankers have lost their jobs. Those that remain are earning smaller bonuses. Now, many Wall Street workers are being told, in addition, to straighten up and smarten up. Bear Stearns is the latest firm to order its employees to start wearing, imagine this, business attire in their business. The move could reflect a tightening job market in Wall Street. It could reflect some bad memories from that telecom and technology bubble. Firms can now tighten their rules. They don't have to worry too much about defections because everybody is doing it. The Sopranos have shown they can get away with murder, extortion, and now breaking something other than legs, breaking a ratings record. HBO says its series about a New Jersey mob family was the most watched original cable program ever. 13.5 million U.S. viewers tuned into the episode Sunday, 2 million higher than the one-hour premiere a year ago. It also ranks as the highest-rated cable broadcast this year. It is, in fact, the third highest cable broadcast since 1994. Coming up next, I'll have a few thoughts on public trust and corporate governance and those who would stand in the way of reform. And we'll share your thoughts on Jack Welch and, of course, that crawl across the bottom of the screen. We had quite an amazing reaction to that. Stay with us.
Closed captioning provided by Oric 8-pound upright vacuum.
Looking for a lightweight vacuum that's really powerful? Try my Oric XL free for 30 days. Nothing gets by an Oric.
Okay, here's the paperwork to apply for your new home loan. I'll check back in a couple of hours to see how you're doing.
But I thought the bank had reduced the paperwork to get a mortgage.
Ooh, right. There you go.
Need cash to consolidate bills? Apply now for a second mortgage from Ditech.com.
Oh no. Bust another loan to Ditech.
Ditech.com. Call 1-800-71-FIXED.
I hate grapes. Green and purple and seedless. Sure, they taste great. But on a supermarket floor, they can make for nasty slips and falls. Hi, I'm Al Mangoni, a safety specialist with Liberty Mutual Insurance. There's no reason the supermarket floor should ever be a dangerous place. So we're working on non-slip flooring and other materials to keep you safe.
Liberty Mutual. It's more than insurance. It's insurance in action.
I also hate bananas.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good old consumer research.
Man, I love focus groups.
Now, which of these two phone directories is your favorite? Yellow Book or the other book?
Yellow Book.
Yellow Book.
Yellow Book.
They're picking the wrong book.
And you?
Yellow Book. That's where I found my favorite pizza.
Charming.
Who else knows about this?
Just us.
What if Yellow Book starts to advertise?
We're in trouble.
More people choose Yellow Book, not the other book. Call 1-800-YB-YELLOW.
In the next 30 seconds, more than a dozen Americans will turn 65. Even more will turn 55. But can they afford to retire? Only time will tell. Are you ready? Learn how to provide for your retirement by logging on to GEFinancial.com and make it more interesting. Enter GE Financial's retirement sweepstakes. You could win $250,000. Now, what are you waiting for?
The Dobbs Report is brought to you by GE Financial. Look for GE Financial's retirement sweepstakes at money.com/retirement.
The Conference Board's Blue Ribbon Commission on Public Trust took a very important first step today, calling for more disclosure by corporate America, restrictions on executive stock sales, the expensing of stock options, and more responsible corporate governance. And that commission deserves great credit. The Conference Board's commission is made up of some of the country's most distinguished leaders, including Pete Peterson, Ralph Larson, John Bogle, John Snow, and others. Their recommendations, in fact, will carry great weight in the public debate over corporate governance, especially on the issue of expensing stock options. One of the commission's members, however, Andy Grove of Intel, continues to dissent on the expensing of stock options, and it's certainly understandable why. The technology industry's earnings would be cut by 70% if they expense those stock options. It's tempting to say that Andy Grove and others lobbying against uniform treatment of options should be just simply told, too bad. In fact, it's not only tempting, it is the right answer to them. Too bad, Andy. We tried it your way. It hasn't worked, and it's time to reform. And frankly, the technology industry needs to join the real world. But not only the technology industry and the venture funds that support them, but also the leading business organizations in this country. They do good work, but here they're doing no good for anyone. The Chamber of Commerce is still fighting the expensing of options. So is the Business Roundtable. It is time for them to give up the fight and start leading on this issue. Or as the Conference Board fears, Washington will legislate. It's time for business in this country to decide which they fear most: Washington legislation, honest reform, or total collapse of confidence in corporate America and the markets. It is past time for business leaders to stand up. Now for a look at your thoughts. R.C. Arneson wrote in to say, considering all the wealth that General Electric accumulated with Jack Welch at the helm, his retirement package is a drop in the bucket. He did a good job. Everyone prospered. What's the beef? John Roden said while Jack Welch did a superb job building GE, he didn't do it alone. There are thousands of GE workers and the many lines of business that Jack managed that put in the sweat that makes things happen. Yes, reward people for achievement, but remember, it takes a partnership between management and labor at all levels to produce achievement. We had an overwhelming response to the news crawl that appears on the bottom of your screen and ours. Hundreds of people responded. More than 90% of them voted, and voted with great passion, against the crawl. Gerald Gray in California, for example, finds it distracting, infuriating, arrogant, self-important, the yellow journalism of the 21st century. Go, Gerald. Catherine in Redmond, Washington writes, if the ticker is so urgent, why isn't it shown during the commercials? Very good point, Catherine. Stephen Helmley said, obscenities are too kind for those slimy little snakes that spew irrelevant information across the screen. And Claire Bazinet of Flushing, New York wrote in to say, love Lou Dobbs, hate the crawl. Harriet Beck in California takes the other side. I love the crawl. I am an information junkie. Dave Ferguson in Chico, California. The crawl gives me up-to-date breaking news that I wouldn't otherwise be presented due to time constraints. Gail Smith from Toronto, Canada has the final word tonight. The only good thing I can say about the crawl is that it has helped me with foreign films because I've become so used to watching and reading subtitles at the same time. At least in the films, they are connected. Thank you very much for your thoughts and your votes. Our email address, as always, moneyline@cn.com, and we would like you to please include your name and address when you share a thought with us. That's Moneyline for this Tuesday evening. Thanks for being with us. For all of us here, good night from New York City.
Crossfire. On the left, James Carville and Paul Begala. On the right, Robert Novak and Tucker Carlson. In the Crossfire tonight, Iraq opens the door for weapons inspectors with a last-minute letter.
We have seen this game before.
The Bush administration vows to keep the pressure on Saddam Hussein. Is this diplomatic dance moving the U.S. closer to war with Iraq?
I think she was just listening for key phrases, and she wasn't getting the gist of the entire conversation.
I'm not in the habit of going around cooking up trouble and telling lies.
A case of she said, they said. Their overheard conversation led to a false terror scare. Tonight, we'll hear their side of the story. And is President Bush a grand old party pooper? Tonight, the queen of Washington's social scene on why the good times just aren't rolling like they used to and the effect that's having on D.C.'s political machine. Ahead on Crossfire. From the George Washington University, Paul Begala and Robert Novak.
Tonight, we're back on Iraq. President Bush continues to make his case for toppling Saddam Hussein despite Baghdad's offer to readmit weapons inspectors. Is the U.S. moving closer to war? 2 members of Congress will step into the crossfire. Then we'll hear from the 3 medical students detained by police after a woman thought she overheard them talking about a terror attack. And is President Bush a party pooper? Some say his homebody ways are taking a toll on Washington's social scene, much to the displeasure of the capital's permanent residents. We'll get to all that this hour, but first, as we do every day, let's start with the best little political briefing in television, our Crossfire Political Alert. Janet Reno was merciful in not prolonging the misery. The vote counting in Florida did not go on and on and on. Today, 1 week after the Democratic primary, the former U.S. Attorney General gave up. She conceded defeat for the governor's nomination to millionaire lawyer Bill McBride, having picked up in recounts just 3,000 of the 8,000 votes she was behind. As usual, Democratic officials in South Florida bungled the election. But Janet wasn't blaming them. If she goes to court, she said it will be against Republican Governor Jeb Bush. She may pose as the kindly grandmother type, but Janet Reno is the mean, partisan stepmother.
Janet Reno today did a very classy thing, and Jeb Bush better watch out. He's about to become an ex-governor. Well, his brother, meanwhile, George W. Bush, our president, was back on the campaign trail again today, this time for the plaid-loving Tennessee Senate candidate Lamar Alexander, his one-time opponent in the presidential campaign. President Bush today raised a cool $1.1 million for Alexander, this a day after he raised another sackful of special interest money for Iowa Republican Jim Nussle. Come to think of it, our president's been spending an awful lot of time on the campaign trail lately, shaking the money tree. According to the Washington Post's Mike Allen today, W is devoting 2 or 3 days a week to politics and fundraising. Well, let's see. With the 2 days a week he spends at Camp David, that leaves just 2 more days a week to be the president. Bush seems to agree with the old Edgar Bergen line that hard work never killed anyone, but why take a chance?
I think that was used by Ronald Reagan at a Gridiron Club dinner, and he was a great president. If George W. Bush can be half that good, I'll be delighted. Today is the Massachusetts Democratic primary election for governor, and Robert Reich President Clinton's Secretary of Labor surely will be defeated. Last week, Andrew Cuomo, President Clinton's Secretary of Housing, was clobbered in the New York primary for governor. Today in Florida, Janet Reno, President Clinton's Attorney General, conceded defeat for governor. In North Carolina, Erskine Bowles, President Clinton's Chief of Staff, did win this U.S. Senate nomination, but he's running way, way behind Republican Elizabeth Dole. One middle-level Clinton aide, Rahm Emanuel, will be elected to Congress from Chicago, but that's in spite of the Clinton connection. It's fatal.
Middle level? Rahm Emanuel was the top aide to the President of the United States. I worked with him at the White House. He is going to be the hottest thing to hit Capitol Hill since, God, I can't remember. Who was that congressman who caned the senator? That's Rahm's going to...
Yeah.
Preston Brooks. Rahm's going to be the next Preston Brooks. Well, the dog waggers at the White House keep trying to push it off of the front page, but Enron keeps coming back to haunt them. In today's New York Times, Paul Krugman writes about newly revealed emails in which Bush Army Secretary and former Enron executive Thomas White apparently wrote to an underling at Enron upon learning of massive losses, quote, "Close a bigger deal, hide the loss before the first quarter." Krugman also notes that yesterday's Wall Street Journal confirmed that manipulation by energy companies played a key role in California's electricity crisis. Whether those corporations also manipulated favorable treatment from the Cheney Energy Task Force is as yet unknown, since Cheney continues to hide the records in a secure, undisclosed location.
You know, the Paul Krugmans and the Paul Begalas of the world have been trying to get Tom White for ages. I'd like to have him respond sometime as to that email. It looked a little bit out of context, but we'll find out sooner or later. One of the nation's hottest congressional races is down in Mississippi, where two incumbent members, Republican Chip Pickering and Democrat Ronnie Shows, are in the same district. And it looks like the Democrats are running scared. Both the AFL-CIO and the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee had to pull off the air an anti-Pickering ad when station managers complained that it was false and deceptive. The ad claimed Congressman Pickering, quote, voted to reward Enron with $250 million in tax rebate, end quote. That's not true, but it's standard Democratic spin that I hear from Paul every night.
H.R. 3090, October 24th, 2001. Chip Pickering, I like him, he's a good guy, he voted for it. It gave Enron $254 million. It's simply true. Well, just when you thought Republicans could not sink any lower in their attempt to politicize issues of war and peace, they're running an ad claiming that South Dakota Senator Tim Johnson is soft on defense. Now, set aside the fact that Senator Johnson co-sponsored President Bush's USA Patriot Act, set aside the fact he voted for the Bush defense budget, Johnson has an even more compelling response. His son, Brooks, is a sergeant in the United States Army on active duty. Sergeant Johnson turned down a cushy stateside job to go to Kandahar, Afghanistan. He's just recently returned home safe and sound, thank God. Johnson's opponent, GOP Congressman John Thune, can also point out that he carries a gun as well, but only for pheasant hunting. He's never worn the uniform of his country.
Either is Tim Johnson, but the interesting thing about Tim Johnson is that he was one of the big recipients for the far-left anti-National Defense Council for a Livable World. But more interesting, Tim Johnson went to court to sue the government for not going into Iraq the last time, and then after the President Bush asked congressional permission, he voted no. Those are the facts, Paul.
Tim Johnson's tough on defense.
Now Iraq is the U.S. getting closer to war with Saddam Hussein? He's now agreed to let in UN weapons inspectors without conditions. That's appeased some UN members, but the Bush administration is unimpressed. The White House says, we've seen all this before, that Baghdad is just buying time with the first in what will be a very long series of stalling attacks. Joining us now in the Crossfire tonight from Capitol Hill, Congressman J.D. Hayworth, Republican of North Carolina, and Charles Rangel, Democrat of New York. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you both for joining us. Congressman Hayworth, let me start with you, sir. First, we were told by Vice President Cheney recently on Meet the Press that there was a connection between Iraq and 9/11. The president later dropped that from his rationale when he spoke to the UN. Then we were told it was weapons of mass destruction, very important issue. Then when the Iraqis agreed, at least verbally, to allow unfettered inspections, this is what the White House came up with, even more conditions. An end to repression in Iraq, reparations for Kuwait, paid by Iraq, missing military personnel to be accounted for from the last Gulf War, and questions on how the oil for food money is spent. How many American lives is it worth to make sure, for example, that the Emir of Kuwait and his 40 wives get the reparations from Iraq?
Paul, I'm glad you raised these questions, and I think it's important to note the onus is not on President Bush, it's on Saddam Hussein. And the fact is we are dealing with questions of international security and the American nation. You asked a question about putting troops in harm's way on a specific instance. I would offer you this question, or perhaps this answer. We always have to think very carefully before putting our troops in harm's way. But this is the issue, Paul. If Saddam Hussein obtains a nuclear weapon, or is continued to allowed to assemble other weapons of mass destruction, pretty soon every American could be at risk. And I just turned to Charlie's hometown, and 3,000 killed on September 11th, 2001. These are the stakes, and it's time to get out of rhetorical Punch and Judy and talk about the real issue, which is maintaining our national security.
Now, of course, Congressman Hayworth, you are from Arizona, not North Carolina.
Went to North Carolina State, and that's okay.
You went to North Carolina State, played a little football there. So
a little. That's being the operative term. Recruited as right tackle, ended up left out.
Okay. Congressman Rangel, there was a very, very impressive piece in the Washington Post by Hank Parrott. He is a congressional candidate for Illinois against Congressman Kirk, incumbent Republican. And we're going to put up on the screen what he said. He said, unfortunately, Democratic Party pollsters and political strategists caution us candidates that we should not talk about foreign policy, but instead focus on domestic issues. The national leaders of my party seem tongue-tied when it comes to matters of war and peace. End quote. Isn't it, Congressman Rangel, a mistake for you to tell young candidates like that you can't talk about war and peace in this campaign?
I think it's obscene for any member of Congress to put Republican or Democratic labels on the question of whether or not we're going to send our young men and women into harm's way. If a situation arises that we have evidence that any enemy, any place is going to strike our great country, I would say the president should have the authority immediately to take them out. If, on the other question, we cannot find any connection at all between what happened in my great city and Iraq, if it is a question of oil, if we have waited 10 years, then I think the president should be lauded for the attention that he brought to the United Nations. Colin Powell should be congratulated for focusing in this direction. And we should wait and see whether or not we've won the first step in the battle to get rid of Saddam Hussein.
You didn't quite answer my question,
I'm
Charlie.
answering. I don't think it should be the president pushing for a vote before the election, or that our candidates or Republican candidates should be told to do anything except where their conscience dictates. I want to make it abundantly clear. I don't think a war at any time should be a political question. It should be what's in the best interest of the United States of America.
I want to come back to Congressman Hayworth. Again, you slipped off the question I asked you like the good pulling guard that you were at NC State. The question was not if he's got a weapons of mass destruction program, do we have a legitimate excuse to invade? The question was if he follows through on his promise, a dubious notion at that, but if he does allow unfettered inspections as promised, is it still worth going to war over whether Iraq pays Kuwait reparations?
Well, again, you pulled one instance out of
one
several.
that the president mentioned, though, sir, with all due respect, in his UN speech, and one he mentioned again last night.
That's true, and I think the point is this, Paul. First of all, as you said in the prelude to re-asking your question, it is very dubious to assume that Saddam is going to allow, as you described it, unfettered access and inspections. The White House has been clear. It's not a question of inspection. It's a question of disarmament and renouncing the attempt to obtain weapons of mass destruction. But even more to this point, Paul, and this is something we have to remember. We're talking about matters of national security. I can appreciate trying to score debate points on ancillary issues, but this is the main question we have. We saw what happened with al-Qaeda when we gave the elements of terror a pass first for the first World Trade Center bombing, gave them a pass on Khobar Towers, gave them a pass on the embassies in Africa, and gave them a pass on the USS Cole. We saw what happened. 3,000 dead Americans. And if Saddam Hussein has access to weapons of mass destruction, if he continues, and we've seen reports that Iraqi intelligence agents met with Mohammed Atta in Prague, we're checking out the veracity of those reports, but even if there is a scintilla of that type of suspicion, we need to reserve the right to act preemptively to save American lives, not to put them in harm's way.
Let's take this one step further then. Do other nations have this right? Can North Korea take out South Korea? Can China take out Taiwan? Can we take out Cuba? I mean, you said earlier, J.D., this is an international question. The president asked for international support in making certain we had inspections. Now, I agree with you that we can't take Saddam at his word. But we have to make certain that the UN does what the UN is supposed to do. This has nothing to do with the question that was asked of you. Should we invade Iraq as a result of wanting to have a change in regime? I say you start down this road, and then other nations believe they have the moral right to bypass the UN and just take out nations. And these are our American men and women.
That response, and Congressman Rango, if you both of you be good enough just to stay with us. Believe me, we want to come right back to this in just a minute. We're going to take a quick break, and when we do come back, with war on the horizon, the commander-in-chief remains campaigner-in-chief. Is this really the best way for our leader to spend his time? Also, a case of she said, they said. We will hear from the 3 students who were mistaken for terrorists. But first, our quote of the day. Here's hint number 1. You're not going to believe what this gubernatorial candidate said when he was asked if he'd ever smoked marijuana. Stay with us.
Crossfire is brought to you by Genuity, managed internet services to keep your network secure.
Great. Another network problem.
Someone left the firewall door open again.
Wasn't me.
Access?
I'm access, not security.
I thought security is everyone's problem.
Excuse me. Legacy.
You're not the boss of me.
Okay, good.
Hold on. Who are you guys?
We're vendors.
That's good.
Want a more secure network? At Genuity, we manage and monitor every inch of your network. Genuity.
Financial freedom. It has its advantages.
Better pack a sweater.
Jefferson Pilot Financial. Investments. Insurance.
Say goodbye to machines taking up valuable office space and tap into the Kinko's network.
The men of Enron expose a little more than their assets for Playgirl. Connie gets the inside story. CNN Tonight, 8 Eastern.
The Golden Crown Restaurant is a landmark in Beaverton, but it's what's inside that makes us unique. We offer a friendly atmosphere that's perfect for your entire family. There's something for everyone on the menu, from our own house medallion beef to Beaverton's best pan-fried shrimp in the shell. And Golden Crown is just as good at home. Takeout orders are always welcome. The Golden Crown also offers a bar with a big screen and a banquet room that serves up to 80 people. The Golden Crown Restaurant. It's all under the dome on Beaverton-Hillsdale Highway in Beaverton.
All over the nation and right here in the Northwest, Kimball Hill Homes has been building fine homes of enduring value since 1939, like this one in Edmonds Estates. With new developments in Battleground, Washougal, and throughout Clark County, you're sure to find a Kimball Hill home that's just right for you. Call Kimball Hill Homes today at 1-800-510-9211 and let us help you build your dream home.
This is CNN.
Back on Crossfire, the question of the day, of course, is the U.S. getting closer to war with Saddam Hussein despite Saddam's pledge of unconditional acceptance of weapons inspectors? In the Crossfire from Capitol Hill, New York Democratic Congressman Charles Rangel and Arizona Republican Congressman J.D. Hayworth.
Congressman Rangel, Richard Holbrooke was President Clinton's former ambassador to the United Nations. If Al Gore had been elected, he'd probably be Secretary of State. And I'd like you to listen to something that Dick Holbrooke said on CNN this morning.
The results of where we are now have come directly from the pressure that the United States has put on the world community since President Bush went to the UN a week ago. So the U.S. pressure, the decision, the change in policy to go through the UN has begun to pay off.
Do you agree with that?
I don't know whether it's paid off or not. It could be that President Bush won't take yes for an answer, but I do believe that the president speech at the UN did make a difference, that the UN officials and Russia and Saudi Arabia and the rest of the countries around Iraq made it abundantly clear that if they didn't abide by the UN mandates, they would have a problem. So I do believe within the international community, the United States has gained a lot of respect. And as J.D. said, we have to now wait and see whether no conditions means no conditions and what progress we can make.
And this is the point.
Go ahead.
Well, this is the point we need to stress, because we've seen reports that indicate that Saddam has already put limits on what he said. He says this is limited to military areas. So if the UN inspectors go back in, which incidentally may take them a matter of months, would he say, oh, gee, sorry, these are research facilities, or these are baby formula factories. Sorry, can't let you in. Only military installations. But there's another important point, and it is this. As was reported yesterday, Saddam's exiled bomb maker says it is his belief that as Saddam is working overtime to get fissionable materials from Germany and enriched uranium from Brazil, and if he does so, he will have a nuclear weapon by Christmas. That's the kind of gift I don't want to see given the American people.
That's United Nations problem, not congressional.
I'm sorry, Mr. Rangel. If it's so dire, why is our president spending 2 or 3 days a week campaigning? Washington Post reports today, let me read to you. Even as much of his staff plans for possible war with Iraq, the president continues to devote 2 or 3 days a week largely to politics. That plus the fact that he's gone every weekend to Camp David. If it's so dire, why isn't the commander-in-chief on the job full-time?
Paul, you're a great student of political history, particularly political history involving Democratic presidents. You may recall that at the height of the Cuban Missile Crisis, JFK took a swing in 1962 through Chicago for Democratic candidates, continued to raise money for the Democratic Party.
No, so wait a minute. Don't do it.
So we're going to give some consideration to a Democratic commander-in-chief, but not to a Republican commander-in-chief. You know, this is the problem, Paul. This is the problem, and I know it's tough for the format of this show. But we're talking about the national security of our nation and our national interest. And this is deadly serious business. So the old rules of rhetorical Punch and Judy and the old rules of politics don't really apply here. As you know, Camp David is situated to have command centers and to have all the information necessary for our commander-in-chief.
Time is short. I want to get on the last question. Charlie Rangel, you and I were both in the Army during the Korean War. You were in combat with a great record. I was not in combat. But we have a situation now where we have a different kind of Army. It's an all-volunteer force. Do you think the president has less compunction about sending this force into combat since it is not a citizen draftee Army but a volunteer Army?
No, and you know, if you take a look, you would see that most of us who volunteered for the Army in Korea and Vietnam, we did it for economic reasons, not to just protect the flag. Once the flag goes up, we salute it, we go to combat, and we're prepared to die for this great country. But when the body bags come home in the volunteer Army, there won't be kids of congressmen or others. These will be kids from rural areas and from urban areas, black and white and poor.
Charlie Rangel, J.D. Hayworth, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Still ahead on Crossfire, we'll speak with the 3 Muslim medical students that were detained on I-75 in Florida for supposedly saying things that sounded a little too much like terrorism. Also, has the sparkle gone out of Washington's social scene with the presence of an administration more interested in governing than partying? And straight ahead, our quote of the day revealed, here's hint number 2. What's the worst thing a politician can say when asked the question, have you smoked marijuana? You'll find out next.
Mommy, drive on time. Mommy, come. No. Come, hold my hand and come.
With a little expert advice from us, this working mom is protecting 3 generations of people she loves. All through her benefits plan at work.
For powerful digital imaging systems that are race car fast and handle so well they can pump out up to 105 pages a minute. Think inside the box. Think Sabin.
Visit Weston.com. Member of Starwood Preferred Guest.
How can I make up for lost ground in this market without being too aggressive?
Protected growth investments are a good place to start. A Merrill Lynch financial advisor might suggest these to let you take advantage of the upside potential of the equity markets while protecting your downside, giving you some security in an insecure world. There's always a smart place for your money. Together, we can find it.
What's brown to me? One word, Mahoney. Mahoney does the work of 3. So instead of 3 different guys for ground deliveries, overnight, and international.
Hey, how you doing?
And 3 different pickup times, all I need is 1 Mahoney and 1 pickup. You wore the shorts for TV, didn't you?
One driver, 1 pickup, 1 reliable network. UPS, what can Brown do for you?
Tonight on CNN Primetime at 8, the girls did it, now it's the boys' turn. Connie reveals why the men of Enron have decided to expose a little more than their assets. Then Charles and Camilla and Prince Harry turns 18. But can he shed his wild child image? All the royal news on Larry King Live at 9. And at 10, award-winning filmmaker Ken Burns with his unique look at American history on Newsnight. Connie Chung, Larry King, Aaron Brown, beginning at 8 Eastern. It's all part of CNN Primetime tonight.
Time to reveal who is behind our quote of the day. When asked if he'd ever smoked marijuana, President Clinton said he tried but didn't inhale. Well, a Democratic candidate for governor in Illinois did one better than that. He said he tried it twice but wasn't sure if he'd inhaled because, quote, I was so inept at it, I don't know whether I did or didn't. Rod Blagojevich went on to say he had vivid recollections of both encounters and that he was sure he did not get the munchies. Blagojevich is the front runner in the race for governor of Illinois. Paul, Rod may be inept. I think he took the wrong book out of the Clinton campaign, the wrong page out of the Clinton campaign book.
He probably should have taken a page out of the Bush camp. George W. Bush was asked. He said, I refuse to answer on the grounds it may incriminate me. Good answer by Bush. Better than poor Rod Blagojevich. Well, there has been a news update. There's been a mid-air collision in California. Connie Chung has details next in a CNN News Alert. And still ahead, Sally Quinn on why the life has gone out of Washington's party scene and why some say the president is to blame. Plus, it could be a scene right out of a sitcom if it weren't so serious. We'll hear from 3 young men who were mistaken for terrorists. Stay with us.
Join Carville, Begala, Carlson, and Novak in the Crossfire. For free tickets to the live Washington audience, call 202-994-8CNN or email us at cnn@gwu.edu. Now you can step into the Crossfire.
Okay. Small business software, $500. It's
coming up.
Small business seminar, $300. Small business supplies, $90. Leaving work early to use your reward points, priceless.
Now, small business owners can earn reward points to use more places than ever before. Call 866-444-BONUS for details. There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's MasterCard.
It's surprising how much you miss from 35,000 feet, especially this time of year. Can you hear the leaves of gold crunch beneath your feet? Feel the warmth of family, or show your old hometown to someone who's never seen it before. Get yourself down to ground level. That's where the memories live. There are over 4 million miles of roads in Alamo country, and with values like this, they're easy to explore. Alamo, the official rental car of the American vacation.
Who's got an answer for me?
Why is it that when we grow up, we forget how to stick our necks out?
Answer.
At AIG, we believe the greatest risk is not taking one.
Yes, Mr. Carter.
In the next 30 seconds, more than a dozen Americans will turn 65. Even more will turn 55. But can they afford to retire? Only time will tell. Are you ready? Learn how to provide for your retirement by logging on to GEFinancial.com and make it more interesting. Enter GE Financial's retirement sweepstakes. You could win $250,000. Now, what are you waiting for?
In an environment where the only constant is change, your business has to continually reinvent itself. Wouldn't it be nice if your infrastructure could do the same? It can, with Proliant server technologies from HP, powered by Intel Xeon processors. Reliable, scalable, manageable, and built on industry standards. So your infrastructure can adapt to change just as quickly as you do.
Hello, I'm Connie Chung at the CNN Broadcast Center in New York. Crossfire is back in 90 seconds. But first, these stories top our news alert. The United States is looking at the island of Diego Garcia as a possible base for up to a half a dozen B-2 stealth bombers, making them potentially available for airstrikes in Iraq. The U.S. is asking Britain for access to the island. If granted, the U.S. government would build special hangars for the high-tech bombers. The U.S. Air Force has been considering plans for years to base B-2 bombers closer to potential hotspots. Two small planes collided in mid-flight today near San Diego. Police say at least 3 people were killed. It's unclear what caused the crash, but both planes were flying under instrument rules. That means they were under the jurisdiction of air traffic control. The company that suffered the greatest losses on September 11th believes the current federal relief fund formula will greatly undercompensate the families of fallen employees. Cantor Fitzgerald says the fund administrator is using low-end salary estimates when figuring a victim's lifetime earning potential. The bond trading firm lost 658 employees in the attacks on the World Trade Center complex. And those are our top stories at this hour. I'll be back in 30 minutes. And now back to Bob and Paul in Washington.
Connie, what do you have on your program for us tonight?
When we come back at the top of the hour, Bob, Baghdad says it's ready to readmit weapons inspectors into Iraq. We'll talk to a former UN weapons inspector, David Kay, and much more.
Terrific, Connie. I can't wait to see it. Thank you very much for that report, too. Connie Chung, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, you've heard of Party On, Wayne, and Party On, Garth. Well, why nobody in Washington is any longer saying Party On W. Plus, those 3 detained medical students. What were they really talking about at Shoney's? Stay tuned.
Mommy, drive on time. Mommy, come. No. Come, hold my hand and come.
With a little expert advice from us, this working mom is protecting 3 generations of people she loves. All through her benefits plan at work.
I needed more computers in the practice. Considering the experience and frustration I had had with the PC, I was afraid it was going to be disastrous, and I was going to spend all my time trying to make these computers work. You know, it's grown from a 1 PC, 2 people practice to a 12 Mac, 60 people practice. Not worrying about fixing computers or learning how to use them. I'd like to be spending time making pets happy and healthy. My name is Mark Gibson, and I'm a vet.
How can I make up for lost ground in this market without being too aggressive?
Protected growth investments are a good place to start. A Merrill Lynch financial advisor might suggest these to let you take advantage of the upside potential of the equity markets while protecting your downside, giving you some security in an insecure world. There's always a smart place for your money. Together, we can find it.
Yeah, the network's switching over now.
Network, what's going on?
Let's take a look, shall we?
The phone lines are down.
Voice, you take over.
Switching to data. 3, 2.
Got it. Want to keep your business up and running? Genuity's Black Rocket combines voice and data on a single secure network. Genuity.
Congratulations, CNN presents. Now, winner of 4 Emmys for outstanding achievement from the Television Academy of Arts and Sciences. CNN presents, taking you on epic journeys, bringing you the unforgettable, showing you the extraordinary. CNN presents the most honored documentary series on television. Saturdays at 8 and Sundays at 7, only on CNN.
Welcome back to Crossfire, coming to you from the George Washington University here in beautiful Foggy Bottom in Washington, D.C. You know, if the subject hadn't been so serious, it would have been a wonderful Seinfeld episode. An overheard conversation winds up scaring the bejesus out of much of the nation and closing a major interstate highway. Well, a Georgia woman reported that she'd heard 3 Middle Eastern-looking men, as she described them, plotting a terrorist attack. The men turned out to be medical students who were detained by police for 17 hours while their vehicles were searched by bomb squads, all on nationwide TV. They are here now to tell us their side of the story. Please welcome Candace Butt, Eamon Gaith, and Omar Chowdhury. They join us from Los Angeles along with their attorney, Brett Newkirk. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Gentlemen, I'd like to start off, just give a frame of reference by playing for you a radio interview with the woman who made the telephone call, Eunice Stone. Let's listen to it.
They said they had attended a party in Chicago the night before and that they needed to quit stopping because they were 5 hours late. And then I just naturally, my curiosity, I just kept listening, and something else was said. They were kind of huddled together there over the booth talking, and then one guy said, "Do you think that will bring it down?" And I looked at my son, and we were just looking at each other, and he said, "Well, if that don't bring it down, I have contacts. I'll get enough to bring it down." And to me, that meant they were planning to blow up something.
Mr. Butt, what were you talking about when you said you wanted to bring it down?
Well, we were talking about Omar bringing his car down from Kansas City. Me and Eamon purchased a car in Chicago, and obviously we drove down. And Omar flew out to Chicago to accompany us down to Miami just for company. And the conversation pertained to just him bringing his car down. I asked him, "Well, do you have enough money to bring your car down? Because, you know, it's pretty pricey." And he's like, "Yeah, you know, I have enough connections if I can't afford it." And that's what the conversation pertained to.
What did you mean by that, Mr. Gates, that you had enough connections?
Oh, it wasn't. It was. It was actually me.
Sorry, Mr. Chowdhury.
I was gonna buy a car once we got to Miami. If not then I was gonna have one shipped down from Kansas City, and that's what I was referring to, bringing the car down from Kansas City.
No, I mean the connections. What connections were you talking about?
Oh, connections just in terms of I knew some people who are car dealers there, and I would ask them that if you have to ship a car from one city to the other, how do you do it, and what deals can you get me?
Well, Mr. Gaith, you're not accusing Ms. Stone of lying then, right? Your defense is, or your argument is that this is a misunderstanding, right?
We're not. I don't want to accuse anybody of anything. I don't want to slander or hurt, because I know how much it hurts, you know, for somebody to be slandered. All I'm saying is we're positive of what we said. We know exactly what we said, and we've maintained it throughout, from the beginning, from the first time they put the handcuffs until today.
Mr. Butt, though, Ms. Stone also says that you mentioned, you and your friends mentioned September 11th, and that's part of what caught her attention. Did you?
Well, we absolutely did not. I mean, throughout our whole conversation, we were in Shoney's for about an hour. September 11th was never a part of the conversation. September 13th was never a part of the conversation. All we were talking about was our school, the experience we were about to have in Miami pertaining to our, rotations in the hospital. We were talking about friends and just getting Eamon settled with his sister and Omar getting a car. That's all the conversation was about.
And we were about some time behind, because we wanted to get everything out of the way and settled before Monday morning, because we started school.
But that suggests, though, that her memory is accurate. If she remembers you saying you were 5 hours behind, you verify that. She says she remembers you saying about 9/11, but you say, well, that's the part she didn't hear?
Well, no. She also said that she remembers vividly that we were both speaking in Arabic and English. And the problem with that is I'm the only one who speaks Arabic. So, I mean, I don't want to call Mrs. Stone a liar. And let me say, first of all, we all are very saddened that she was in the hospital. We really feel we feel she feels better. We hope she feels better.
Mr. Chowdhury, why did you blow through the toll gate on I-35 without paying a toll?
Actually, I wasn't the driver.
Who was the driver?
I was driving the car.
Well, why did you blow through the toll gate?
I didn't blow through the toll. Actually, I stopped at the toll, paid the lady. I noticed that she was very nervous. I noticed there was a squad car almost, at the corner of the toll booth waiting for us. Paid the toll, pulled out, and within about 5 to 10 miles, we got pulled over.
You'll actually see proof of this very soon. We've been in conversations today. David Kabillion, my partner in Miami, Florida, was in conversations with Sheriff Hunter, who claims that he has copies of the tape from the toll booth, but he just hasn't had time to review them yet. I think we'd all like to see that tape.
I want to make this clear. You are saying flatly you did not blow through the toll booth without paying a fine. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Did not run through the toll.
Well, Mr. Chowdhury, let me ask you, the police say that you and your friends were not cooperative when they pulled you over, and that you resisted allowing them to search your car. Is that true?
I remember when we were pulled over, we were arrested. I told the officers that, I'll answer all your questions. And in fact, all three of us offered any help we could provide. But we did ask them as to why we were detained, and we were not given an answer to that for the entire duration of our detainment.
So you're saying you were cooperative, Mr. Chowdhury?
Yes, we were, as far as I'm concerned. I don't recall anything that could lead them to believe we were not cooperative.
Now, respectfully, very often in law enforcement, one's assertion of one's constitutional rights, as happened here, is termed uncooperative. And I think that's what we had happen here.
So Mr. Newkirk, let me come back. I want to get your clients to speak for themselves, though, with all due respect to your profession. I want to know, let me try Mr. Butt.
Well, I think they said the same thing that I said.
Did you at first deny the police access to your car for a search, which is
Absolutely
perfectly
not.
your right, but did you exercise that right?
No, I actually told them that you can go ahead and search the car because I have nothing to hide. I knew they were going to search the car anyway. I mean, it was pretty obvious from the situation we were in. So I told them, go ahead and search the car. I did not tell them that you can't search the car.
I requested for myself that they not search my car.
Why is that, sir?
My mom, it took her 2 and some hours to pack everything just right. I had my medical equipment in there, my books were in there, all my clothes, my ties, and when a car is searched, you know how it is. They're going to throw everything around, and I didn't want anything to be messed up.
Last question, I want each of you to answer briefly, please. Do you think that you were racially profiled, and this is the cause of all your difficulty?
I mean, I'll say I don't understand the word. I mean, the actual description, the definition of racial profiling. What I do understand is, had her eyes been closed and she heard this conversation, I'm pretty sure we wouldn't be in the spot we are today. That I could say.
You agree with that, the other two gentlemen?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, let me ask you what you would do if you heard, if you saw your eyes were open, you saw a white young male, Anglo, wearing a T-shirt that had right-wing expressions or neo-Nazi stickers on it and talking about blowing up a federal building or bringing down a federal building, as Tim McVeigh did. Wouldn't that be legitimate profiling of him, too?
Well, it's not. I mean, it's not the profiling. I mean, the issue is not the way he looks. He has the right to look the way he wants to look, you know. But I'm not going to pick up 1 or 2 words out of an hour-long conversation and hold them, you know, to that. I mean.
That'll have to be the last word. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure.
Coming up on Fireback, a northern neighbor thinks the United States should get a whole lot bigger. But first, why some in Washington want to party like it's 1999 before the Bushes came to town.
How can I make up for lost ground in this market without being too aggressive?
Protected growth investments are a good place to start. A Merrill Lynch financial advisor might suggest these to let you take advantage of the upside potential of the equity markets while protecting your downside, giving you some security in an insecure world. There's always a smart place for your money. Together, we can find it.
For powerful digital imaging systems that are race car fast and handle so well they can pump out up to 105 pages a minute. Think inside the box. Think Sabin.
My own cholesterol has been a little on the high side.
Eat 3/4 of a cup of oatmeal per day, 30 days.
Yeah.
This is a science experiment.
So he told me that his cholesterol was down sharply. He was eager to tell me. I couldn't shut him up.
Quaker Oats help reduce my cholesterol. 29 points in 30 days.
Made a big difference for him, and he wanted everybody to know about it.
It really happened.
I'm going to do what he did. I'm going to eat oatmeal.
At Choice Hotels, we know there's nothing wrong with any family that a few days of traveling together can't fix. That's why we have over 2,500 Choice locations across the country. Because the farther you get from home, the closer you get to the people who live there.
So when are we going to talk about the honeys and the bees?
The what?
Enter the get-together sweepstakes at choicehotels.com, and you could win a trip for 10 to any Choice Hotel location in the continental U.S. That's the power of being there.
Life needs the Caribbean. Call your travel agent or visit GoCaribbean.com.
George W. Bush has admitted to being quite the party guy in his youth, and we're not just talking Republican. Now the president is a teetotaler who hits the sack by 10 o'clock each night. That's all fine and well for his health, but it's not doing much for the health of Washington's famous social scene, where supposedly much of the real work of politics is done. Joining us in the Crossfire tonight, a woman who's been described as Washington's hostess-in-chief and the queen of the D.C. social scene. She's also author of The Party, an insider's look at capital society, Washington Post reporter Sally Quinn.
Sally, welcome to Crossfire. I'm not big on honorifics, but Your Majesty, as you know, I don't like Bush at all. I don't defend him on anything, but let me defend him on this. What's wrong if the guy just wants to stay home with his wonderful wife?
Well, you know, I think that it's a little more complicated than just the Bushes don't like to go out. I think that they came in, they clearly don't like to socialize very much, and they didn't get out very much in the beginning. He does go to bed at 9 o'clock, and I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I'd really rather have the president run the country well and be rested and feel good than to be out at night at parties. But I think that after 9/11, the things really did shut down, and I think at that point it would have been inappropriate for the president to have a lot of parties. But at the same time, shortly before that, Katharine Graham died. And Katharine Graham was she was the owner of the Washington Post. I'm sure most of you know that. And she also gave great parties. And she gave the kind of parties that Washington is famous for, which is sort of what you all are doing here tonight, which is bipartisan. You know, anybody can have a political fundraiser and have all their Democratic friends or their Republican friends, but the real trick about entertaining in Washington is to actually have people who disagree with each other and have them sit down and be nice to each other over dinner.
Of course, the two greatest presidents of the 20th century, Ronald Reagan and Calvin Coolidge, did a lot of sleeping, too. Susan Waters started all this fuss by writing something called The Big Chill in W Magazine. We'll put what she wrote, how she started her article. She said, for capital courtiers who thrive on proximity to power, the real crisis in Washington these days isn't war, recession, or the upcoming midterm elections. It's a mind-numbing lack of glamour and social buzz. Do you miss the glamour, Sally?
Well, I mean, you're still here.
No, is that what we're talking about? That the glamour is gone?
Well, when you don't have a lot of parties, then it's hard to have a lot of glamour. And, you know, I think people often misunderstand the whole idea of Washington entertaining because they think, oh, how can she talk about parties and when we're about to go to war? And clearly, you know, you can't talk about that in the same breath. But the fact is that in Washington, parties are work. It's political. When you go to a party, you make contacts. It's like a big Middle Eastern marketplace where you're negotiating with people, you're making contacts, you're learning things. I mean, I have been to so many different events where people actually who were fighting on the Senate floor. I once sat in a dinner party with two people who had been having a terrible fight on the Senate floor. They didn't really know each other very well. And I got in the middle of this conversation. By the end of the evening, they were hugging each other, holding hands, let's have lunch. I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, I remember actually...
We got in trouble for a lot of hugging and more at the Clinton White House, so sort of a different thing this time.
But well, you know, I was sorry James wasn't here because I remember that right after Clinton got elected, James and I sat next to each other at a dinner party, and I thought, who is this crazy person? I mean, I'm going to have to sit next to because I'd only read about him. And he thought, who is this, awful Washington establishment person? Well, by the end of the evening, we were in love. You know, we had a great relationship, and I love his wife, Mary, too, by the way. And you and I had a great conversation one night at a party.
We did.
So
and,
you know, a big-time party.
Oh, I'm huge, Bob. Oh, absolutely.
This was a hot party, and he was one of the star guests.
You know, I've been in this town as a journalist for 45 years, and I've never been invited to parties. I don't go to the Georgetown parties. I don't get invited to state dinners. I don't get invited to unstate dinners. And you know, I've had I think a pretty good life. Who needs all those parties?
Well, actually, I have seen you around sometimes, Bob. You are out and about occasionally.
Not in about 30 years,
no.
I don't think.
But I do think that it promotes communication. I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, I think that when the president has a state dinner or when they entertain people, I think it just helps people get to know them. And I was at a dinner party recently with Dick Cheney, and I happened to be at his table, and there were a lot of an undisclosed location. There were a lot of very skeptical liberal journalists at the table. And by the end of the evening, they were feeling sort of won over by him just because they'd never actually sat down at a table. And he was nice, he was polite, he was interesting, he was informed. So I thought that was an interesting moment because they all came away saying he's not a monster.
Well, could it be, though, that you're a journalist? Journalists seem to be at the heart of the Washington social scene, and our president does have famous antipathy for them. Turns out, for example, his first state dinner, he had no one there from Houston at all. It's not that he's a homebody, it's maybe he doesn't like journalists.
Right. Well, I think he probably likes some journalists. Karen Hughes was a journalist, actually. No, I think that anybody who goes into the White House, and I'm sure you know this better than anybody, immediately hunkers down. You circle the wagon. They're all against us. They hate us. And I think it's even worse for Democratic presidents because they know that most journalists have more of a liberal bent. And so they think the journalists are going to be on their side. And when they realize that it's an adversarial relationship, they feel betrayed. And then they get really angry and upset.
Sally Quinn of the Washington Post, thank you for helping us decode the tribal rituals of Washington. Terrific job. Thank you very much for coming on. Now, one of our viewers has an email asking the question, what the Bushies and the Beverly Hillbillies have in common. Well, we will find out. We come back with our Fireback segment. Stay with us.
Hey, Fred, my laptop crashed. Well, after I dropped it.
Oh, Fred, do you know the password? I just changed my password to.
3 o'clock, Fred. Time to fry another hard drive.
Fred, I think I just crashed the internet.
Dealing with technology is hard. That's why CDW makes buying it as simple as possible by custom configuring brand name products to your specifications 1,500 times every day.
Hey, Fred, I fixed my laptop, but it still doesn't work.
CDW, the right technology, right away.
Prince Harry turns 18, but can he ever shed his wild child image? Plus other royal news on Larry King Live. CNN Tonight, 9 Eastern.
Volkswagen of Portland. Portland's largest volume Volkswagen dealer. Zero down delivers any Volkswagen in stock. Every 2002 Jetta in stock. Portland's largest selection. Every 2002 new Beetle in stock. Portland's lowest prices. Every 2002 Passat in stock. There can only be one leader. Ray Reese Volkswagen of Portland. 122nd in Burnside. Drivers wanted.
Your new look is here at Plus One Motorsports. The very best.
Plus One Motorsports.
Meet Joe. He bought a new Ford from a low-price, high-pressure dealership. What does he have now? A new Ford he wished he'd bought somewhere else. Meet Jim. He buys on value. What does Jim have? A new Ford he's really glad he bought from Canby Ford. He got a great deal. They treated him with respect. No pressure, no wasted time, and the service department is award-winning. When you're looking for a great car or truck, you'll find it in a Ford. When you're looking for the absolute best value in the Valley, you'll find it at Canby Ford.
This is CNN. This is CNN.
Closed captioning provided by Oric 8-pound upright vacuum.
Looking for a lightweight vacuum that's really powerful? Try my Oric XL free for 30 days. Nothing gets by an Oric.
Time for Fireback. Nathan Stein of Calgary, Alberta, Canada says, I take your comment about the Western Canadian provinces as an invitation to join the United States of America and abandon the dictatorial control of the inept, inarticulate left-wingers Jean Chrétien. We accept, send in the Marines. Right on, Nathan, but only George W. can send in the Marines.
But the Governor General then of the new 51st state will be Bob Novak.
Yeah.
Gene Smith of Friendswood, Texas, right by where I grew up, writes, when it comes to social activity in D.C., the Bushes are like the Beverly Hillbillies. But one thing is for sure, they have a common interest in oil. Oh, and they also have a Jeb. Well, Gene is pretty good. I like them.
They still have a few lefties in Texas, don't they, Paul?
A few. Yes, sir.
From the audience. Go ahead.
Artie Hormanjari, Davis, California. President Bush is by no means a party animal, but Clinton was, and that didn't help him much. Does a president's social life really impact the effectiveness of his administration?
Not a bit, but Bill Clinton was sort of an animal. I don't know if he's a party animal.
Yeah, I am defending President Bush. He doesn't go to any parties, and he's completely ineffectual, even though he sleeps 12 hours a night. So who knows why this guy's
Next question.
Hi, I'm Stacy from Fitchburg, Massachusetts. I have 3 siblings that have been activated because of the tragic events that happened on 9/11. What are your feelings of the U.S. attacking Iraq, and or your feelings of the United Nations attacking Iraq?
I would rather see him inspect and get rid of the weapons. And I was at Fort Devens, Massachusetts, near Fitchburg. You know that?
Yeah, I'm actually with Bob on this. If we call Saddam's bluff and send in inspectors, and then he kicks them out, then we have a right to attack. But if he doesn't and he allows unfettered access, I think President Bush has to respect the UN that he spoke so passionately to last week. Thank you for your question. From the left, I'm Paul Begala. Good night for Crossfire.
To the right, I'm Robert Novak. Join us again tomorrow night for another edition of Crossfire. Connie Chung tonight begins immediately after a CNN News Alert.
Good evening, I'm Aaron Brown in New York. Here's a quick look at some of the stories making news at this hour. Officials at the United Nations and from Iraq will meet again in 10 days to iron out the details of Iraq's offer to readmit arms inspectors. A former Iraqi ambassador to the UN says the meetings will take place in Vienna. He made the announcement after the chief UN weapons inspector held preliminary talks with Iraqi officials today. The Bush administration remains skeptical, to say the least, of Baghdad's offer. Former Attorney General Janet Reno's bid for the Democratic gubernatorial nomination in Florida is over, at least for now. Former Attorney General officially conceded today, clearing the way for Bill McBride. It took Reno a week to concede the primary, as in the year 2000. This latest Florida election was marred with voting machine problems. McBride will now challenge the incumbent governor, Republican Jeb Bush. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, today confirmed 7 more people have died from the West Nile virus, raising the national death toll this year to 71. Federal health officials say more than 1,500 people have been diagnosed with the virus this year. The first human case has now been confirmed in the state of Colorado. Hope you'll join us for News Night, 10 o'clock Eastern Time. Connie Chung Tonight is coming up next.
Good evening. I'm Connie Chung. Tonight, has Saddam Hussein already succeeded in stalling an invasion?
Back to Iraq without conditions. Saddam says UN inspectors can return to Iraq in search of weapons of mass destruction. But is he to be believed?
We have seen this game before.
Will inspectors find what they're looking for? Tonight, a former UN nuclear inspection chief tells Connie what the inspectors will do when they hit the ground in Baghdad. Would your kids survive a nerve gas attack?
For every minute that goes by, there will be some who will not survive.
Seconds can mean the difference between life and death. How prepared is the U.S. to protect its children? Some say not enough.
A nerve gas attack that affected a daycare center would be a horrible event.
CNN's Deborah Fayrick on children at risk. Startling figures from Enron. Former employees lose their shirts, and that's not all. Now it's the men of Enron bearing it all. This is Connie Chung Tonight, live from the CNN Broadcast Center in New York. Connie Chung.
Good evening. Tonight, UN inspectors and Iraqi officials have agreed to meet next week in Vienna to hammer out the final details for their return to Iraqi territory. Nevertheless, President Bush today called on the UN not to be fooled by Saddam Hussein's offer to let inspectors search his country for nuclear and biochemical weapons facilities.
This is a man who has delayed, denied, deceived the world. For the sake of liberty and justice for all, the United Nations Security Council must act in a way to hold this regime to account.
Assuming the UN and Iraq work out the details of their meeting next week, just what can the inspectors realistically expect to accomplish? What obstacles will the inspectors encounter once they finally get to Iraq? Joining me now from Washington is a man who knows full well what the job entails. David Kaye was the UN's chief nuclear weapons inspector in Iraq from 1991 to 1993. Welcome, sir. We appreciate your being with us.
Happy to be with you, Connie.
Mr. Kaye, we had 7 years of cat-and-mouse inspections in Iraq, and we were not able to find certainly everything. What would it take to do the job properly?
Well, first of all, what it would take would be an Iraqi regime committed to revealing the truth, to stopping its concealment efforts and stopping its deception. Absent that, the role of the inspectors and what they can accomplish is, quite frankly, very limited.
So if the last inspection process included 40 inspectors and 2 helicopters, what would you say would be the minimum to get out there and do the job?
I think if you want to have a hope of covering a country that's twice the size of the state of Idaho, you certainly need at least 1,000 inspection personnel in the country, and you probably need close to 100 helicopters capable of moving anywhere at any time to surprise the Iraqis, to in fact force them to admit that they are trying to conceal their activities or really have a confrontation yet again with them, as I expect would happen.
Is that going to happen, though? Are there going to be 1,000 inspectors and 100 helicopters?
Well, it certainly doesn't sound like it at the pace the UN is moving today. I certainly hope that as the Security Council faces a resolution, that they really recognize their responsibility, because after all, what is at stake is the reputation of the UN Security Council, not just weapons in Iraq. And I thought the President made that rather clear last week.
Do you believe that Saddam must be confident that he has hidden enough facilities in order for him to say, all right, bring your inspectors in?
He's confident enough to do it in the face of overwhelming military action. We've seen this cheat and retreat attitude really since before the inspectors. It was part and parcel of Iraqi diplomacy from after the invasion in 1990 until the Gulf War itself started. When they face overwhelming military action, they decide to try to concede, try to involve the UN, and delay, knowing that the prospect of military action will probably fade if it doesn't take place when it's threatened.
And how easy is it for him to hide facilities?
It's extraordinarily easy. Remember, he's had 4 years without any inspectors there harassing him, trying to force into facilities where they suspect things are being hid. He's militarized, mobilized, made biological weapons facilities, for example, road mobile. He's moved things underground. He's moved them into facilities that are inherently difficult to inspect. Mosques, universities, private residences, all the places inspectors really have a great deal of problem going into.
In fact, when you were there were times when you were going in the front door and they were going out the back door.
Absolutely. That was more the norm than the exception during my years there.
And very quickly, can you describe for us that incident in 1991? It was a standoff. You and your team of 40 were kept in a parking lot, held captive for 4 days.
Well, what really happened is we were lucky. We had good intelligence that indicated the Iraqis had moved documentation of their nuclear weapons program. And the reason documents were so important is because for scientists you can deal with the technical issues. But much like white-collar crime, if you could get the documents, the weapons design information, the invoices from foreign suppliers for his nuclear program, you could make that abundantly clear to the world. We succeeded in surprising the Iraqis, seizing the documents, and when we did, the Iraqis said, "So sorry, you can't leave with the documents." And we said, "So sorry, if we can't leave with the documents, we're going to stay here until we can leave."
And in fact, you did. Sir, one final question. And it's something that we started with, and that is, can these inspections work, or are you basically telling us that Saddam has to go in order for any of these inspections really to reach fruition, to work?
If your objective is ending his weapons of mass destruction, not simply carrying out inspections, then inspections cannot achieve that final objective as long as he continues to conceal, deceive, and otherwise hide his program. Inspectors can harass, can slow down, can make the process much more expensive for the Iraqis, but they cannot eliminate his weapons. Now, if your point is just to carry out inspections, sure, you can do that without threatening Saddam and without much trouble, actually.
All right. An exercise in futility, I assume.
I'm afraid so.
David Kay, thank you so much. We appreciate your being with us.
Thank you.
And so, has Saddam Hussein's offer cut President Bush's legs out from under him? Russia today said Saddam's offer means there's no need for a new UN resolution against Iraq. And Russia has a veto in the UN Security Council. In the U.S., Saddam's offer had little impact on either side of the aisle in the Senate. Earlier, I spoke with 2 senators from both parties. Both men serve on one of the most pivotal committees weighing in on this issue. Joining me now, 2 members of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, Indiana Democratic Senator Evan Bayh and Ohio Republican Senator Mike DeWine. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Connie.
Senator Bai, first with you. Doesn't Iraq's offer to allow weapons inspectors in suggest to you that they feel confident that they can hide the weapons necessary to sort of pull the wool over the eyes of the world?
Connie, I think that's exactly what it means. We've been down this path before, playing hide and seek with Saddam Hussein. He'll do whatever it takes. He'll hide, he'll lie, he'll obfuscate. And I frankly wouldn't put much confidence in our ability to find out what he has there. And the risks of not finding it are simply too great to tolerate.
Senator DeWine, would you say that the United States is clearly just moving forward with talk of war, with invading Iraq, regardless of what Saddam Hussein claims or promises?
What I would say is that we are not, I agree with Evan, we are not going to just take this man's word for it. We've been down that road before. The only inspections that really would matter would be unfettered inspections, which basically would mean that he would allow inspectors in with full rights to go any place, anytime, and really, in a sense, he would give up his sovereignty. No, it's not going to happen. But I think we have to go through this process. You know, we do live in a world of law, and the United Nations has these resolutions, and this is the proper course to follow. But is Saddam Hussein going to do this? I think we all pretty much know that he's not going to do it.
Senator Bai, how long is this scenario going to play out?
Honey, that's a good question, and we don't really know the answer to that yet. I assume the President will allow the United Nations and our allies a decent interval here to reach the right conclusion about what needs to be done. But at the end of the day, we can't give anybody else, as much as we would like their support, we can't give anybody else a veto over doing what's in the best interests of the United States in terms of national security. Connie, I was going to mention one thing. We know that he has harbored terrorists. We know that he has obtained chemical and biological weapons in the past, probably has them again now. We know he's desperately trying to get nuclear weapons. We know that perhaps he's even offered some rudimentary training in biological and chemical weapons to terror organizations in the past. We know all of that, but as dangerous as that is, what we don't know may be even more troubling. We're dealing with a lot of uncertainty here, and the prospect that he could have even gone further down this path is very troubling.
Senator DeWine, do you believe that the United States will ultimately go it alone?
Well, I certainly hope not, and I don't think that we will have to. But in answer to your question that you asked Senator Bai, you know, if we have to do it, we'll have to do it. We will do whatever we have to do. The President as Commander-in-Chief and this Congress and the American people will take whatever action they have to take to keep us safe.
Senator DeWine, Senator Bai, thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Connie.
Thanks, Connie.
And on the home front, New York State, the 6 men accused of helping al-Qaeda will be in court tomorrow for a hearing on whether they should be set free before their trial. And tonight, CNN has obtained a new glimpse into the history of one of those men. CNN national correspondent Susan Candiati is on the story tonight in Buffalo. Susan, investigators are still looking for 2 of the 8. They've already taken custody of 6 of them. What can you tell us about the 2 remaining?
The 2 remaining, Connie, are, one is somewhat more important than the other. The 2 names are Kamal Derwish and Jaber Al-Benna. Now, they're both U.S. citizens, both allegedly also attended training camps in Afghanistan. But what makes one of the 2 stand out, according to government officials, and that's Mr. Derwish, they say that he played probably more of a central role in all of this. They're calling him and characterize him as a recruiter. Someone, they say, who worked apparently for al-Qaeda, they believe, both in the United States and overseas. And according to the FBI affidavit already filed in court, Derwish, it turns out, according to the FBI, helped make the travel arrangements for those who are accused once they got over to Pakistan and then Afghanistan, and then he helped them make their way over to the camps. He's also, according to the FBI, someone who received special, for example, special training, special weapons training, and anti-aircraft guns, that kind of thing, over in the camps.
Now, Susan, I know you have some chilling information about al-Bakri, who was arrested in Bahrain over the weekend.
That's right. According to, again, government officials, evidently not too long ago, intelligence agents in Bahrain intercepted a communication between al-Bakri and someone else. And in so many words, al-Bakri said, "Goodbye, this is the last time you're going to hear from me." This was apparently upsetting, according to translators, about the tone that he was using, exactly what he meant. And so CNN has learned that this was a key reason why the FBI decided to move forward with the investigation and roll out those arrest warrants and begin to pick people up over the weekend, because they told CNN they were very concerned about exactly what this might have meant, emphasizing that the FBI says it has no evidence of any plans in the making that any of these people were involved in to carry out an attack in the United States or anywhere else.
And you have also gotten some video of one of the men who is in custody now. What can you tell us about that video?
Well, to put it in context, you know that you've been hearing from people throughout the week and over the weekend, residents of Lackawanna who know many, if not all, of these men who are accused of providing material support to al-Qaeda. And to the person, they say they can't believe